definition. Now, evolution has, there's the idea of theory of evolution. Okay, so what we just went through is definition of evolution, now the theory of evolution. Basically, the theory of evolution claims that life on Earth evolved gradually, beginning with one primitive species. Perhaps a single self-replicating molecule that lived 3.5 billion years ago. It then branched out over time, throwing off many new and diverse species. This is a definition or theory of evolution from a book called Why Evolution is True. And I wasn't convinced after reading the book Why Evolution is True by Jerry Coyne, who's a famous evolutionary biologist in Chicago. There's many problems with this theory. But before I go on to those problems, do you think all scientists agree, biologists especially, that evolution is an undeniable fact and true, and whoever disagrees with it is some crazy bigot, some whatever? Do you think all scientists agree 100% that evolution is true? That's right, they don't. See, evolution as it's taught in high school and middle school, it's taught as if it's like a fact, it's haqiqah, there's no changing it. If you don't believe in it, you're some crazy religious person who doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, or whatever they're talking about. And they'll make you look crazy, make you look like a bigot. They'll think you're some Christian fundamentalist who believes in the Bible. But the reality is that if you look at the scientific literature, scientific papers, and it's all out there now, there's a lot of ikhtilafat, huge debates between scientists. Angry debates. They get emotional. Scientists, we're taught to think, are just these very calm and cool, logical, rational people. They're just interested in the truth. There's debates in which the scientists are accusing each other of lying and deceiving. It's all publicly available. I'm talking about big scientists like Richard Dawkins and Dennis Noble, and I'll talk about them. About 20 years ago, a group of PhD scientists got together and they studied evolution on their own or whenever, and they were like, there's something seriously wrong with this theory. There's problems. Things don't add up. There's too much faith you have to put in for evolution to work. And these scientists, over 1,000 of them, they signed a statement saying, we are skeptical of claims of the ability of random mutation and natural selection. Random mutation and natural selection are two mechanisms of how evolution works. That's what they claim, to account for the complexity of life. There's a website called descentfromdarwin.org. All of you should visit this website. And there's a 1-minute video, YouTube video that I want to play. I don't know if the voice will be projected. Okay, let's see. Let me see if the voice will be projected onto the... So here's the video of 1,000 plus PhD scientists. All right, let's put the... No, the voice is not coming through, is it? So basically, this is the video. A growing number of scientists are skeptical of Darwinian theory. And they're calling for a careful examination of the evidence for Darwinian theory. Don't expect your high school biology teacher to talk about this. Don't expect your biology professors in colleges and universities to talk about this. But this has been out there. And they're challenging openly evolution. It's not just a few handful of Christian fundamentalists. There are all kinds of people who have PhDs and they're scientists and they've signed their name. One of these scientists who signed his name agreeing to the statement is right here in Houston at Rice University. His name is James Tour. And after he signed the statement, he was rejected from National Academy of Sciences. They kicked him out. They canceled him. And so he contacted them. He's like, why did you guys not accept me? He has 500 plus scientific papers. He has hundreds of patents. He's one of the top 25 people in the world who can do synthetic organic molecules. His job is to put molecules together. And he said, you can't put together those molecules randomly out there in some primordial soup out there in the wild under the sun. Molecules don't just come together randomly to create life. He challenged the top 10 scientists who believe in what they call OOL, origin of life. And that challenge is also publicly available on YouTube. He told them, show me. He said, I'm a chemist. He's been a chemistry professor for decades. He says, I'm a chemist. I know how to put together molecules, and you cannot put together a cell. If I give you all the cell parts, again, I'm paraphrasing him. I give you the nucleus, the DNA, the RNA, the cytoplasm, the mitochondria, the cell membrane, all the organelles of the cell, I give you all this, you cannot even put them together. That reminded me of a verse of the Quran. لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون. They cannot create anything, but they are created. لا يخلقون شيئا. Allah says they cannot create anything. And in another verse, لا يخلقون ذبابا. They can't even create a fly. So this scientist is not even asking, he challenged them. He's here, right here at Rice University. He challenged them, he said, just show me how to put together a cell. Don't even create from scratch. Because the verse in the Quran is not talking about putting together. The verse in the Quran is saying they cannot create from scratch. So he put this challenge out there years ago. They ignored him. They can't. He said, forget about the human cell. Just put together polysaccharides, polypeptides, and polynucleotides, which are basically RNAs, DNAs, proteins, and lipids, basic cell parts. He said, forget about the cell. You can't even put those cells together. You can't even put together an RNA or DNA. And he challenged them and he proved it. So they canceled him because he dared to challenge the Darwinian theory. They canceled him. So he asked them, he said, why did you not accept me in the National Academy of Sciences, which is world's most top leading organization, scientific organization, and they have a journal. You can have multiple PhDs, they still wouldn't accept you. You have to have a track record of hundreds of papers and patents, and you name it. You have to be top of the top of the top. And you know what they told him? They said, we know you're qualified. You're twice as qualified as others, but you signed that statement criticizing Darwinian evolution. We can't accept you. At that point, as he said, they pushed me. Then he got into origin of life research, which is the basis of, which is prerequisite of evolution. And he's been doing incredible work. So there's many problems with this theory that I've personally also documented based on scientific evidence, based on the testimonials of scientists in this paper that inshallah I hope will turn into a book one day. Right now it's a draft that could be taught. So evolution keeps changing. By the way, if there's any questions, I want this to be an interactive session. Is there any questions? Any questions? Feel free to interrupt me anytime. I want this to be an interactive section. I don't want this to be, one-way lecture. So Darwin, this guy Darwin, right, he wrote this book in 1859, and he came up with many things as part of the theory. Some of the things that he came up with have been debunked or hotly contested. He didn't know genetics, he didn't know DNA, he didn't have transitional fossils, almost no human fossils. So for 70 years, this theory was accepted, but it wasn't that popular. Biologists knew about it. Then molecular genetics and DNA was discovered, and the theory got in trouble because there was evidence in molecular biology and genetics that challenged Darwinism. So a group of scientists such as Ernst Mayr, about 7 or 8 scientists. Some of them are really famous, like Julian Huxley. They got together and they basically tried to save Darwinian evolution. But to save it from Darwinian evolution, they made some really serious assumptions that turned out to be later on false. But it's taught all over the world for the past 70 years, all over the world, the neo-Darwinism, the new Darwinism, which is called modern synthesis, is taught all over the world as a fact. Open any biology book in China, India, Malaysia, South America, anywhere in Europe, North America. Any biology course you study in college, university, and high school, they basically are teaching you Darwinism, which is the new Darwinist theory for the past 70 years. However, this guy here, Dennis Noble, he's my favorite biologist. He's an Oxford University professor emeritus. He's done incredible amount of research. He's a well-known person all over the world. He has destroyed neo-Darwinism. He says neo-Darwinism has fallen like a house of cards. Yet he is being sidelined. Nobody's, they're not really putting him out there so he can be heard. I came across him accidentally on YouTube as I was searching. And he has put together new insights into neo-Darwinism, and he says neo-Darwinism is completely wrong. So, how many scientists oppose evolution? You would think that nobody opposes evolution. You would think it's 99.99% of the scientists, and it's a true fact. But as I mentioned before, there's a group of scientists that oppose evolution. The question is, are scientists free to criticize evolution? You would think there's academic freedom, you would think there's free speech, but if you criticize evolution and you're a scientist or PhD in any field, guess what they will do to you? This is a scientist right here, biologist by the name of Masatoshi Nai. He said Darwin is a god in evolution. You can't criticize Darwin. If you do, you're going to be called arrogant. That's what Masatoshi Nai said. This does not sound like science to me. This sounds like some fake modern religion. So evolution is being used to push people out of belief in God. Hundreds of millions of Christians have already left Christianity, belief in God, because of evolution, and now many Muslims are also affected by it. So if there's a scientific theory that is being used to tell people, well, the Quran is wrong, there's no God, we're all just a bunch of monkeys or apes or advanced forms of apes, then there's no point in worshiping God. If you're going to use a scientific theory to attack religion, get people out of belief in God, then there's going to be a strong response from people who believe in God. Here's a scientist, computer science professor at Yale University, David Gelernter, and he says, in rejecting Darwinism, I'm attacking their religion. Darwinism is a religion. He said, you take your life in your hands to challenge Darwinism intellectually, they will destroy you if you challenge Darwinism. This is all out there. It's publicly available information. I'm not making this up. I can provide links. Yes, please. That's a very good question. That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked. We're not rejecting, or at least me personally, I've been researching this for years. Me personally, I'm not rejecting everything in evolution. I'm rejecting the macro evolution, but not micro. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. There's aspects of evolution that are true, but they're at the micro level. It should not even be called evolution. It's just normal biological change. But then there are aspects of evolution where they're teaching us that we were evolved millions of years ago from ape-like creatures. That's gone too far. And I'll talk about that, inshallah, in just a few more minutes. Here's James Tour, right here in Houston at Rice University. He's the one who challenged, as I mentioned before, top chemists, top scientists. And he was excluded, kicked out, or not allowed to be in the National Academy of Sciences. This guy really knows his stuff. He has a YouTube channel, and he's a very strong, born-again, Bible-believing Christian. And he will always teach about Christianity. He loves Christianity, but he keeps his science and religion separate. His science is legit. I've been following him, and he knows when he talks about chemistry, he knows what he's talking about. And some scientists are, I'll tell you a funny story about James Tour. James Tour mentioned this. He was in Israel talking to some scientists. He went to the Weizmann Institute in Israel. And he was talking to a biophysicist. He was talking about a certain part in the human ear that gets increases in thickness to accommodate for variation in sound. So James asked this scientist, how do you think something like this could evolve? The human ear is so complex, so complicated. How could something like this evolve? The biophysicist replied to James. He said, oh, Jim, we believe evolution, but we don't know how it works. That basically summarizes most of the scientists out there. They just believe in the evolution because a few scientists, neo-Darwinists, have proven it, quote unquote proven it, but they don't know how it works. There's a book called Darwinism as Religion, in which it's written by an atheist philosopher of science. You would think it's written by some Christian fundamentalist who's trying to discredit evolution. No, it's written by an atheist philosopher of science. Here's another atheist biologist, evolutionary biologist, famous biologist, Julian Huxley, neo-Darwinist. He wrote a book called Religion Without Revelation. And he says the modern man needs a new religion. After Europe abandoned Christianity and the Western world, they abandoned Christianity. What did they do? They came up with a new religion backed by this type of science. I've already mentioned Masatoshi Nai. Here's another modern evolutionary biologist. She's an agnostic Jew, Professor Margulis. She says it's a religious sect. I already mentioned this guy. He said, this guy here, Thomas Nagel, professor of philosophy, he's saying people have been browbeaten into accepting evolution. They called him a heretic. Yes. Yeah. They're rejecting Darwinian evolution, gradualism. They're rejecting natural selection, random mutation. They're saying that the life that we see, all the animals and creatures that we see, they could not have been evolved randomly through accidents. They're rejecting it, but they're not saying anything about that. They're not making any claims about how life started. They're just saying evolution as it's taught doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. They have their books and their evidence and their research and the scientific papers that have been published, and they present their evidence. Yes, it's all out there, publicly available. There's a book that I recently read called Darwinian Fairy Tales by an atheist philosopher called David Stone. He says Darwinism is all a bunch of fairy tales. They're expecting us to believe the impossible, statistically impossible. And it just goes on and on. There's a book called What Darwin Got Wrong. And he said, you have to either choose faith in God or faith in Darwin. You can't have them both. That's what he's saying. And he himself is a secular humanist. He's not a believer in any religion. And many scientists talk about an intimidating environment. If you criticize Darwin or evolution at a university and you're a professor, they're not going to like you too much. They're going to try to cancel you. They're going to call you names. They're going to call you bigot. And this one was the biggest shocker that I came across. There's a professor of history by the name of Richard Weikart. You know how some people say Hitler was a Christian? Some people say Hitler was an atheist? Professor Weikart says neither of the two. He says he was inspired by Darwinian evolution because he believed that white, blue-eyed, what they call Aryan race had evolved to a higher level than other races. So he believed, Hitler and Nazis believed, based on evolution, that their race was evolved to be more superior race. And they used Darwinism. This entire book by a professor at University of California State University. So all of this I'm presenting you to show you that there's a lot of problems with evolution. A lot of scientists don't accept it. It's been turned into like a religion. Not everything in evolution is 100% true. Not everything is 100% false either, and I'll present that. Let me just skip through some of this stuff. They're just obsessed with Darwinism because they're afraid that if evolution turns out to be wrong, Darwinian evolution or Darwinian evolution turns out to be wrong, people will then believe in God. They don't want people to believe in God. And Richard Dawkins said, thanks to Darwinism, atheists now can be intellectually satisfied. So this scientific theory is designed to turn people away from belief in God. And here's a summary of all the scientific and logical errors in evolution, and then I'll try to address, actually this addresses the question that sister asked. That was a very good question. This is what I found based on research, and everything that I found here is not really my opinion. It's the opinion of the scientists based on the evidence and logical reasoning. First thing, always differentiate. You guys can read that, or is that too small? You read that? All right. Always differentiate between microevolution and macroevolution. Microevolution, I'll give an example. If, okay, I'm dark-skinned, okay? My wife is light-skinned. What will be the color of my children? One of my child is right. Some of my children are lighter, like my wife. Some of them are dark. Some are mixed. That's microevolution. Okay? If you take a horse and get it married to a zebra, what will be the child look like? Zorse. Horse and zebra. That's microevolution. It's minor, small changes in color, size, shape, weight. And that's true. Everyone accepts that. You can see it. You can do it in a lab. You can do it at the microscopic level, at the bacteria level. You can see it at the animal level. That's microevolution. That's true. Here's a couple of examples of microevolution. Let me pull them out right here. So microevolution is about changes from the parent to the child, to the child, to the child, in height, size, shape, and so on and so forth. Here's a male zebra. If you get it married off to a female zebra, the child will be this. This is what the child look like. Isn't that amazing? Subhanallah, this is the khalqullahi azim. There's a zebra. Who's the mother? The horse is the mom, and the zebra is the female, and the child is Zorse. That's microevolution. That's true. No one is questioning that. That should not even be called evolution. That's just normal biological change. What does atheist evolutionary biologists have done is that they took these micro changes and took it way too far. They said eventually the species will turn into something else, and the organisms in the sea turned into fish. The fish came out, turned into reptiles. The reptiles became this, and before you know it, there's dinosaurs and they're flying. And then we have ape-like creatures, and then we have chimpanzees, and then we have human beings over billions of years. They went too far. There's no evidence for that. There's no evidence for that. I've looked at the fossils myself. I've studied the fossil. The so-called fossil evidence is overrated. You take a black dog and get it married off to a brown dog, what kind of dog will you get as a child? Somewhere in there. Cross-pollination of plants. That's micro. Micro is true. It's all around us. Everyone accepts microevolution. The problem is when you have macroevolution. So let me go back to macroevolution part. And here are the problems that I found with macroevolution. And it's all well documented. These are based on what the scientists are saying, not me. Don't take my word for it. Everything is in my paper. You can find the evidence and papers, links, everything's provided for you. So macroevolution is false. There's the so-called tree of life is highly misleading. You know how they have the tree of life. You have one organism, then it branches and branches and branches. And somewhere out there is apes and chimpanzees and monkeys and humans. That tree is a big fat lie. Okay? And there's strong evidence against that tree, that the scientists are saying it's not a tree of life, it's not a tree of life, it's a forest of life. There's many different trees. That's a possibility. I'm willing to accept that. Fossil record is overrated, and evolution is like a fake modern religion because they don't want to believe in God. And the central dogma of biology also contains mistakes. That's a technical point. I don't want to get into that. The origin of life, according to James Tour, is impossible. He challenged top scientists, just show me how to put together a cell. And they can't. They can't. He says nobody has come close to synthesizing or even suggesting how to synthesize. Synthesize just means to put it together. The simplest of cells in modern lab. He said, you guys are top scientists. You know your chemistry. You know your biology. You've been doing this for decades. You're professors. Here's a lab. Here's all the equipment, all the modern technology. Just put together a cell. Put it together. Don't even have to create from scratch. I'll give you all the ingredients. They cannot. Now let me go to the Quranic verses. How much time do I have? Yeah, here's the Quranic verses. I'll go through very quickly since I don't know how much time. Oh, 20? Okay. Allah says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم خلقكم من نفس واحدة. Allah says He created you all from one single person. That's Adam. But the evolutionary biologists are saying, no, we weren't created from one single human being. We were created from creatures that were ape-like creatures that evolved over millions of years. So if scientists are saying this and the Quran is saying something else, obviously we Muslims will go with the Quran. And then we find scientific reasons and logical reasons why their science is wrong. Here's another verse from the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى. We have created you from a male and a female. All of us go back to Adam and his wife Hawa alayhim assalam. But the scientists will say, no, that's not blah, blah, blah. And if you look at what they're saying, and when I say scientists, I mean evolutionary biologists who are atheists. A male cannot come into existence without a female cannot come into existence without a male. How is it possible for organisms that were asexual? All the organisms, if you go back enough according to what they're saying, were asexual, meaning they reproduce by splitting into two. How do they go from asexual to sexual? That's impossible logically. Another really cool fact that I found out in biology books, you cannot create a DNA without protein, and you cannot create a protein without DNA. Circular dependency. How is it possible for organisms to evolve into a DNA or protein when you need the one without the other? That's a circular dependency that they cannot answer. Yeah, you also need a minimum number of genes to have a living being, living cell. Yeah, you can't evolve. Genes cannot evolve. Proteins cannot evolve. They actually expect us to believe that billions of years ago, there was a primordial soup somewhere out in the cave under the sun or in the sea, and somehow the proteins came together. Well, how did the proteins come together? Proteins are very complicated. James Tour has challenged the scientific community to just put together, not even create, put together one protein. And you know, the simplest protein has 2 amino acids. Simplest protein. Human proteins have 20. And sex is binary. Every one of us is either male or female. Biologists know this. Sex is binary. We're all male or female. This trans movement is a definition of insanity. They're literally crazy. वो पागल है. Literally crazy. They're literally majnoon. There's no way a person can be trans. Sex is either male or female. Ask a biologist. Richard Dawkins hates religion. He doesn't believe in God. Even he said sex is the one thing that is really binary in biology. One of the very few genuinely binary things we have in biology. If you destroy the idea of male and female sex, you destroy evolutionary biology. And here's another beautiful verse from the Quran. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. Haven't the disbelievers seen that the heavens and the earth were joined, stuck together as one thing? Then Allah, we split them apart. That sounds like Big Bang. Very similar. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And we have created every living thing from water. The Big Bang origin of the universe, possibly. And notice the verse says, haven't the disbelievers seen? The scientists who discovered the Big Bang Theory were disbelievers. Just hardly, when was Big Bang Theory discovered? Not long ago, right? In this century? I don't know, I forget, but maybe within the last 100 years, I could be wrong. And this verse came down 14 centuries ago. Allah is saying the disbelievers, Allah is telling us the disbelievers will discover that the universe, the heavens and earth were one thing and Allah split them apart. And every living thing is made from water. Professor Dennis Noble has a video called Chemistry of Life Begins with Water. You can't have life without water. If you look at space exploration, in space exploration, what do they always say? Oh, we have found water traces on Mars. That means there must be life there. That's right. You can't have life without water. Allah tells us these incredible, amazing truths. And Allah says, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَّةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ. Allah has created every beast from water. And Allah says, لَن يَخْلُقُوا ذُبَابًا وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعُوا لَهُ. They will not be able to even create a fly from scratch, meaning. Even if they get together, meaning even all the world's top scientists come together, they cannot even create a fly. So don't be fooled, because in the media there's a lot of hype. Oh, scientists have created life. Oh, scientists did this, scientists did that. If you actually read that article and actually follow through what they're saying, they ain't doing nothing. They're just playing with material and fooling us into thinking that they are close to creating life. They cannot create anything. Allah says, لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون. They cannot create anything, meaning from scratch, and they're created. They can't even put together a cell. Forget the cell. They can't even put together a DNA, protein. Dr. James Tour has challenged them, and they have not been able to meet his challenge. That's all I wanted to say. Actually, last thing, let me mention this verse. ما أشهدتهم خلق السماوات والأرض ولا خلق أنفسهم وما كنت متخذ المضلين عضدا. Allah did not let us witness the creation of the heavens and the earth, nor did Allah let us witness our own creation. And I did not take the misleaders as helpers. That's, to me, is a hint. I could be wrong, but to me that's a hint that whoever tells you that life was created out in the wild just like that is a misleader, is a model. They're lying to us. Biology is a beautiful science. The more you study biology, the closer you get to Allah. But what they have done is they have corrupted biology with evolution. They have injected this stupidity of evolution everywhere in biology to turn people away, unfortunately, from Allah. There's a lot more I can say, but I'll stop here. What did you? Okay. I have a long paper that, well, inshallah, will turn into a book, inshallah, published in the future. But if you want a link to it, and you can see the draft, it's right here. tinyurl.com is evolution true. You're welcome to criticize it, reach out to me, tell me why I'm wrong. I would love to hear your criticism.
Jazakallah khairan. So Isha is at 9:15. So inshallah, at this time I'll just do some discussion panel with Ustad Qadi, and then we'll open it all for Q&A, and maybe we'll go there's actually a quiz for this as well. Maybe we'll go over some of the questions inshallah. But just to kind of ask a question, let's say I was dozing off sleeping. What would be one sentence that summarizes, okay, what is evolution and what do I have to know as a Muslim?
So did I answer your question, sister, about what you were asking about? What do they believe in? Well, they don't express what they believe in, but what they tell us is what they don't believe in. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Did I answer the question that somebody was asking? I don't know who. Okay. Yeah, read the paper, inshallah. Yes, good. Yeah, AI is scary, but it should not scare us. I have background in computer science. I work in IT. We can talk about AI another time. It's giving you the impression that it's doing things, but in reality, it can only do what it learns from the existing data, which comes from humans.
So,
she raised her hand. Yeah. Right. Yes. Right. But it's a matter of what you're defining evolution as. So I think that part is you have to be very careful. Yeah. Right, right. Yes, yes. Not everything. Yes, I agree. That's why if somebody asks me, "Do you believe in evolution?" I ask them, "What do you mean by evolution?" If you mean micro, yeah, I totally believe in it. It's happening in front of me. But if you talk about macro, there's huge debates, passionate debates among scientists, and I don't believe in macro. I haven't seen any evidence to prove it.
Jazakallah khairan. So, let's say some of the audience here or some of the audience who know their family members or friends, they're going to school on Monday and they're going to biology class, 9th grade, 10th grade, and their teacher starts talking about evolution. What should they ask or tell or understand from their teacher?
Okay. So what do you ask your biology teacher? Here's the question that you ask your biology teacher. Which came first, the DNA or the protein? They don't have an answer for that. Which came first, the DNA or the cell? You can't have DNA without cell. You can't have cell without DNA. Which came first, the protein or the cell? You know, there's a lot of circular dependencies that I have discovered scientists talk about in nature. And whenever I see the circular dependency, I say, La ilaha illallah, because there has to be some external power that has ilm and qudra, knowledge, extreme knowledge and extreme power, that must have put all this together simultaneously. Which came first, the male or the female? Very simple question. Why aren't they talking about these questions? Why aren't the biology books addressing these questions? Very simple question. Which came first, the male or the female? How is it possible for organisms to go from asexual to sexual? Here's a philosophical question. Which came first, the laws or the organisms that obey the laws? You have organisms that are obeying laws of chemistry and biology. You can't have laws without organisms. You can't have organisms without the laws. A little philosophical, requires a little bit of thinking. Here's another one. Proteins control genes, but those proteins in turn are coded for by other genes. Genes need proteins, proteins need genes. It's a network. The universe is a closed system. So that's the question that I would ask my biology teacher. For sure.
Jazakallah khairan. And just...
Yeah, when the scientists talk about evolution, they don't tell you if they're talking about micro or macro. And that gets confusing. If you look at any articles, they don't differentiate. They expect you to know. And the evidence that they provide works for micro, but it doesn't work for macro. It doesn't prove macro. In fact, Dennis Noble, let me show you his statement. Dennis Noble is a top top biologist, physiologist. He said natural selection has never led to the formation of new species. Natural selection is the way evolution works according to what they're saying. But he's saying natural selection doesn't work at the macro level. It works at the micro level. He said it hasn't happened, it has never been observed, never shown in labs. And here's a really interesting statement by him. He says, in fact, we scientists have tried in labs very hard to get dogs, cats, and fish to evolve into whole new species. And he said, but we never got new species. We've tried very hard with artificial selection of dogs, cats, and fish, like in a lab, but the result has been just new types of cat, fish, and dog. You couldn't get a dog to evolve into something that is not a dog. This right here is a powerful testimonial from a powerful scientist. He's a world-class scientist. He says, macro, there's no evidence. Selection doesn't work like that. He says natural selection can eliminate certain traits, but it does not create, Lynn Margulis said, natural selection does not create new species. This is what scientists are saying, but you're not being taught that in high school and college. You're only taught one very narrow version that has many, many problems, but you're being taught as if it's a fact. Does that answer your question, brother? Okay. We can talk some more afterwards, inshallah, if you like.
So just to kind of give like a counter argument, perhaps some scholars say that there's a possibility, some Muslim scholars say that, okay, Allah Azza wa Jal created the first human beings. What if they evolved after that? Or what if just the animals evolved? Are we allowed to take that into consideration?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes we hear that, okay, fine, as a Muslim, I cannot believe Adam alayhi salam was evolved from ancestors who were ape-like, like apes. I cannot believe that because the Quran, 5 times the Quran says, min nafsin wahida, from one person. 5 times the Quran says that. So you cannot ignore that and say, as a Muslim, I believe that Adam alayhi salam was evolved from ape-like creatures. But the question that he's asking, what about animals? Could they have evolved? I haven't seen a clear statement in the Quran that says animals didn't come from, it's silent about that, right? For human beings, we have one common ancestor, which is Adam alayhi salam. We have one forefather. I don't want to use the word ancestor because that implies evolution. It's possible. With animals, it's possible that there were dogs and the dogs evolved into wolves. That's possible, and that's what the scientists are saying, that wolves were evolved, advanced dogs. Okay, no problem. I have no problem with that. Zebra, horse, donkey, they all could have been one species that evolved into different types. I can accept that, no problem with that. But where's the evidence that fish evolved into reptiles that evolved into dinosaurs that could fly? Well, they say we have fossils. Show me the fossils. I went to the Dallas Museum of Science. I've looked at all the fossils. Fossils don't prove. If I find a fossil, which is a bunch of bones, it's 90% not even there. It's a bunch of teeth and skull. That's all it is. 95% is missing. And from those teeth, I have to imagine the whole animal. Fossils don't come with a birth certificate. Fossils don't tell me who was the parent of the parent of the parent of the parent. They have to imagine all this. The people who study it are called paleontologists. And they're just wild guessing. And there's many fossils that they have that are unclassified. They don't make sense. But we don't know about them. They're just sitting there unclassified. In fact, at the Dallas Museum of Science, there's a fossil that is misplaced. I saw it. They put it in the wrong time zone. And they don't care. They don't do anything about it because most people don't know about it. Unless you spend years studying evolution, you're the only one who would probably understand that they have misplaced the fossils. So to summarize the question, With with humans, no way the humans were evolved. No way. Impossible. The Quran says 5 times. And the evidence scientifically is also, it should not even be called theory of evolution. It should be called a hypothesis, a very bad, flimsy hypothesis.
Jazakallah khairan. And 2 more questions, then move on to open Q&A, and as well as maybe some short questions from a quiz. So, how do we learn biology where most of the sources are coming from scientists who may be biased or they believe in macroevolution? How can we authentically study biology?
That's a very good question. That's a very difficult question to answer. I don't know a good answer for that question. I mean, you're stuck with a biology teacher, and the biology teacher is going to teach you what she or he is qualified to teach. If the biology teacher does not teach what the book says and what the curriculum says, she will be fired from her job. She has no option. She can't teach you what she believes in. She has to teach you what the book says. They'll be fired from their job. And we'll be called crazy, we'll be called bigots. So what do you do in that situation? I'm open to suggestions. My suggestion is study. I mean, it's very difficult for high school students and college students to study evolution for years and years and years and research. You don't have time for that. You're forced to accept whatever they throw at you. But what you can do is ask good questions, like the questions I presented today. And if you want to access this presentation, like I said, the link is there. tinyurl.com/is_evolution_true. It's a work in progress. It's a draft, and I'll be updating it. It's going to be a while before it turns into a book. And I'm hoping that inshallah, eventually, I'll get the endorsement of other teachers and scientists, and it'll turn into a book that Islamic schools can use, the Sunday school teachers can use. Inshallah, my goal is to turn into a curriculum, but that's going to be a while. This is like the most difficult project probably I've ever taken. It's going to be a while. It's a work in progress. I want you to look at it, criticize, reach out to me, tell me where you think it makes sense, tell me where you think I'm wrong, and inshallah.
And just a follow-up question. Let's say someone is studying biology, or they just come across some evolution information and they find that evidence is convincing for macroevolution. Yet they're a very strong believer. They know Quran is true. There are other things that they're 100% sure Quran is true. There's no doubt. So should they just brush it under the rug and believe in Quran, or should they try to address their doubt and further research?
Okay, that's a very good question. Here's something I want to share with you. There are different types of sciences. If a strong science contradicts a weaker science, obviously you go with the stronger science. There are mathematical sciences, then there are experimental sciences, then there are historical sciences. Evolution is not a mathematical science. That's a first red flag. There's no equation. Like, Newton's laws, F equals to ma, the law of gravitation. Laws of physics they have equations. If a law has equations, that's a very strong proof. But evolution has no equation. Evolution is not a mathematical science. What are the mathematical sciences? Theoretical physics, theoretical chemistry, statistics, and computer science. These are mathematical sciences. They're based on pure reason and pure logic. They're true, 100% absolutely true. But then you have strong sciences which are experimental sciences, such as physics and chemistry are experimental sciences. And there's a high probability that their laws and theorems are true. High probability, like 99%. By the way, does anybody know about the mystery spot in Santa Cruz, California? I used to live in California, and I used to live in Santa Cruz. There's a place in Santa Cruz called the mystery spot. If you go there, laws of physics don't work there. You can actually watch YouTube videos. Just Google in YouTube, the mystery spot, Santa Cruz, California. I'm taller than somebody, and if I stand at a certain spot in the mystery spot, that person will look taller than me. I'm not joking. I'm not making that up. You can actually look this up. There's a plank. They put a plank like this, and it's like this. They put a ball at the bottom of the plank, the ball starts to roll up anti-gravity against the gravity. So physics, the laws of physics work 99.99999% of the time. They don't work on places like Santa Cruz, California, or the mystery spot. And there's other places in the world where laws of physics don't work. So that's why I said high probability. But look at the weak sciences. Historical sciences are weak sciences. Forensics, paleontology, and evolution are historical sciences. They study historical evidence and make wild, random conclusions. Not random, but some conclusions about them. So if a historical science like evolution contradicts something strong like mathematical science, and what's even stronger than mathematical science? The Quran. So if the Quran contradicts a weak science, no problem. I'm rejecting the weak science. So even if they prove to you, quote unquote prove, there's no proofs in biology. In biology, we have evidences that lead to certain conclusions. Proofs are only in mathematical sciences. Right? Quran is based on pure reason, pure, our Aqidah, our Islamic theology is based on Aristotelian logic, pure reason.
If you mentioned that 99% of the time physics laws are true, but sometimes they may not be true, like the mystery spot or other places on Earth or anomalies. Do you think that's a proof for miracles, like splitting of the moon or rocks speaking?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Sometimes the atheists, they make fun of people who believe in miracles. Oh, you Muslim, you believe in miracles? Ha ha ha. Yes, I believe in miracles because it's very rational to believe in miracles. What's a miracle? A miracle is a violation of an empirical law. It's not a violation of a mathematical or logical truth. So 1 + 1 is 3, that's not miracle. That's foolishness. But if I drop this and it doesn't fall, that's a suspension of an empirical norm. That's possible. Allah is the one who created the laws of physics and chemistry and biology. He can suspend them whenever He wants to create a miracle, to prove the prophecy of a prophet that He sent. Allah doesn't expect us to believe irrational things. But violation of the laws of science are theoretically possible. Every real scientist knows that this is true. True scientists know that this is true. That it's possible for gravity to not work at certain point on Earth. Do you think they verified gravity on every point on Earth? But they know for sure gravity works on every point on Earth. Right? Scientists know the gravity works everywhere, but do you think they went everywhere on Earth and verified it? No. So how do they know it works everywhere? Through laws of physics. They assume that it works in most places, therefore it must work everywhere. Deductive induction, right? And all they have to do is go to Santa Cruz, California and find out there's weird things happening and they don't have an explanation for it. So whenever some scientist or scientific discovery contradicts what the Quran is saying, Quran is always right. Science keeps changing, the Quran doesn't change.
Jazakallah khair. And last question, and then we'll have open questions and some time for quiz questions. It has 2 parts, this last question. What's just one sentence that can summarize everything and we can take home? And number 2, what's the next step? Okay, I attended this talk. Maybe I won't remember everything, but what do I do now? What should I do? Should I research? Should I just, okay, nothing changed. What should I do?
The summary that I can give you in 10 seconds is micro is true, macro is false. And Allah created us from one person. خَلَقَكُمْ مِن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. One person. That's the summary of the talk today. And the other part of the question was?
What's the next step? What should we do after this?
The next step is study, first of all, study Islamic theology, Al-Aqidah Al-Islamiyah. It will save you from a lot of insanity that's out there. And things are about to get worse. Things are about to go, if you think things are bad now, they're taking us for a ride. They're talking about transhumanism now. They're confusing our gender. Study Islamic Aqidah. And Islamic Aqidah is based on rational proofs that are as good as mathematics, absolute truths. Once you study Islamic Aqidah, once you study logical reasoning, and study logical fallacies, nobody can mess with your head. Nobody can fool you. That saved me personally from a lot of madness that I also struggled with a lot of these concepts when I was a young.
I'm a very busy person. I may not have time to take a whole course on Aqidah. Is there just like a quick series on YouTube?
Yeah. Here's a series that I wrote called Islamic Theology in 5 minutes. And there are 9 videos. Each one is about 5 minutes. You can study there. I will add more videos, inshallah.
Is it free?
Yeah, it's publicly open and available. You can go to my YouTube channel. Is it okay for me to advertise my channel here? So here's my YouTube channel. Actually, let me go here first. I'm a teacher of Quranic Arabic. I've been teaching Quranic Arabic for a long time. I've authored books, alhamdulillah, and I teach, and I certify Arabic teachers. And this is my YouTube channel called Quranic Linguistics Institute. And click on the playlist. And in the playlist, you will see Islamic Theology in 5 minutes. These are 5-minute easy lectures. They're about 9 right now, and I'm going to add more, inshallah, in the future. Start there, inshallah.
Can kids watch this?
I think the minimum age for this is probably 12, maybe. A lot of it will make sense to kids even as young as 7, but some of it requires a little bit of logical thinking. That starts to happen at age 12, 13. But if you're a parent, you make the decision. You can watch these videos first and decide if your children are ready for them.
Jazakallah khairan. Are there any questions? Any questions? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Biology depends on what biology you're talking about, because biology has different sciences involved in it, right? Another problem is no one knows everything about evolution, because you just have to know too much. Even scientists struggle with it. Because if you look at biology, there are many different types of biologies, right? There's anatomy, biogeography, biotechnology, botany, cell biology, ecology, embryology, genetics, genomics, microbiology, molecular biology, paleontology, phylogenetics, molecular phylogenetics, physiology, systems biology, taxonomy, zoology. There's too much to know in biology itself, right? So your question was, is biology, some biology could be experimental science, some is historical science. So it depends on which branch of biology you're talking about.
Jazakallah khairan. We had a question over there, and then we'll go to that sister, inshallah.
Why did I mention Israel?
Why did you say Israel, not Palestine?
Oh, yes, astaghfirullah. You're right. Thank you for correcting that. She said I should say Palestine, not Israel. I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
Almost got you into a political situation there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I do want to mention, because there are a lot of young people here and they're comfortable and the ninth graders that are
Yeah.
they're in biology. I think a lot of them are not equipped to have that discussion with
Yeah.
the teachers. So,
Yeah.
and we have, they start their tests, they will have to go by
Yes.
what's on the book. So even though your Islamic belief may not agree with it, don't question it unless you're, not willing to upset
True,
your teacher
true.
or affect your grade. So
Yeah.
I would kind of consider that conversation.
True, true.
Ask those questions because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I
So
agree.
after the course ends, then
Yes. Yeah, if you start challenging and saying things to your biology teacher, you'll fail the class, and I don't want you to fail the class. So don't open that conversation unless you've gone through at least 1 year of training in evolution, studied with me or somebody else, whoever wants you to study with. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. Yeah, I agree. Okay, that's a good question. Some problems with the term Homo sapien, because you have Homo erectus, Homo is a genus, and sapiens is a subgenus. So if you start using those terms, you're basically implying that there are other humans, human-like creatures like Neanderthals, hominids, and other things. So by accepting that term, you're accepting all that other. I don't have an opinion on Neanderthals because I don't know if they were just apes or human-like. I haven't seen enough evidence about Neanderthals. So that's one way I could answer the question. Second, Adam alayhis salam was created outside of this world and he was brought down into this world with his wife. Yeah. If you call Adam alayhis salam Homo sapien, then you're implying evolution and you're implying he was created here, but he wasn't created here. Right? He was created as he is. And then he was sent down. But I'll try to address that some more, inshallah.
Yeah.
Try to address that more, inshallah. That's the first thing that just came to my mind about that.
Inshallah, it's time for Isha. Maybe we'll just take one more question. He's been waiting for a long time. And then after Isha, we'll have more questions. We'll have more questions after Isha as long as Qiyam, Tahajjud, Fajr. Inshallah.
Alaikum salam. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't, yeah, that's a very good point. I haven't read any historians say that, but that's a possibility for sure. Do you know anybody who has actually said that, like a historian? Okay, good. Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah. 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 Yeah, I'm gonna check on that as well. That's a good point. Thank you.
Inshallah.
Possible.
Jazakumullah khairan for attending. Inshallah, after Isha, we'll have more questions. You can privately talk to him or just come up, inshallah. And now we will break for Isha. Jazakumullah khairan kathiran. May Allah bless you all. And Jazakumullah khairan for Ustadh Fahim al-Qadi for coming all the way from Dallas. Inshallah, there will be many more events like this. And he will be giving more evolution talks in Dallas. More information on the Instagram, Quranic Linguistics. And you can find out much more information after Isha. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واستقيموا واعتدلوا قيموا صفوفكم يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير. ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين. وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه ليلا طويلا إن هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا نحن خلقناهم وشددنا أسرهم وإذا شئنا بدلنا أمثالهم تبديلا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما يدخل من يشاء في رحمته والظالمين أعد لهم عذابا أليما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I just wanted to thank Ustaz Fahimuddin Qadi. He came here all the way from Dallas for tonight's program. Jazakumullah khairan, Ustaz. I don't know where you are. Oh, it's in the back. Okay. Jazakallah khair, Ustad, for a beautiful lecture. For those of you guys who missed it, you guys can watch it on our Facebook and our YouTube, inshallah. The entire program was live streamed and it was broadcasted to the night ta'ala. So please, you guys go on there, inshallah, and take advantage of the program, take advantage of the lecture with the night ta'ala. One other thing, bismillah, please visit Dr. Fahimuddin Qadhi's Institute online, QuranicLinguistics.com, inshallah, for more information on all the rest of the classes and programs, Arabic programs that he does. He's been teaching Arabic for the past 12 years. A few weeks ago, about a month ago actually, we had his Arabic intensive, for which almost 20 people, alhamdulillah, from the community, they took a part of that, they took advantage of that program. So if you want to visit his website, inshallah, if you want to know more, visit his website, QuranicLinguistics.com, inshallah, for more information. Tomorrow, please remember, there is the Miftah conference at U of H, prophetic conduct. There's a QR code that is outside with the discount code for those who register. It is ISGH25, so you get a 25% discount on the tickets. It's $15. I mean, you don't really need a discount, inshallah. But in case you do, there's a 25% discount in that, so you can use that as well. Remember, inshallah, the week after next, which is the 8th of September, inshallah, we have our event with Sheikh Abdul Nasir Janda. I hope you guys can, inshallah, join us.